Hello, ladies, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me in this live webinar on how to stabilize your mood with herbal remedies. That's right. Most people don't think of herbs as something to use as a tool to help you to get through the day, to feel better, to maybe, you know, have a more motivated attitude, maybe to pull you out of a little mild depression or cool down your hot temper and or just help you to stop stressing out and worrying. We mostly think of herbs as, something to get us asleep or flush out our colon or flush out our liver. But in fact, they work extremely well on the mind. And one of the easiest things to learn to treat is your state of mind with herbs. And I encourage people to experiment on their own from what they learned from this webinar today. We're going to talk about Western herbs, Indian herbs, that can help you to modify, or we should say stabilize, your mood. Well, we could say change your mood, alter your mood, lift up your spirits, cool your head down. And this is all based, of course, on Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, we have three states of the mind, the three gunas, the tamasic state, rajasic state, and the sattvic state. So the tamasic state is kind of, leans, we could say, simply put, to depression, but it's a dead, unmotivated, lethargic, tired, slow, heavy type of state of your mind, which tends to lean towards depression. And then there's the rajasic state, which is, aggressive, passionate, sexually orientated, accomplishment, a greedy, egotistical, and we can associate in its imbalance as being aggressive and even anger, and if it is extreme, even suicidal. That's rajasic. And then and we associate it with the dosha pitta, just like the tamasic state we can associate with the dosha kapha. And then there's the sattvic state, and that is the state where the mind is at peace. And so this is one of the purposes, or the main purpose of meditation, is to learn to still the thoughts and reach a state of sattvic, state of mind where things, life, and influences don't affect your state of mind. You remain in a state of peace, unaffected by outside influences. So this is the basis of these three states of mind, which are dominated by Vata Pitta Kapha. It's only we all have them to some degree. We could say when we're sleeping, we're a little bit tamasic. After a big meal and we go to sleep, we're tamasic, heavy, and we doze off, and we're tamasic state. And then when we go to work and we drink a cup of coffee and we argue with the staff, or we go to stock exchange, we buy, we sell, or then we're racing in the car, to get to work. That's all the rajasic state. We're drinking the coffee, you're all fired up. And so you need that to get the job done. And then maybe you come home, you do some yoga, some asana, some pranayama, you do meditation, then you're in this state of sattvic. So you could be experiencing all three states even in one day. But of course, people, if they remain in that tamasic state where they feel depressed and slow and sleepy, then we're going to end up calling this a type of depression. So in Ayurveda, we're not treating depression, we're treating this tamasic state. And then if the person's very angry or even has, tendency to violence, yelling at people, maybe like somebody's husband's, I don't know, maybe your wife, then that's a rajasic state. The person's usually quite a good achiever and very goal-orientated, but often very overly aggressive. And if this rajasic state or the pitta is too high, then it makes the person angry and aggressive. So, and there's many formulas that are to balance the mind and create a sattvic mind. Like we say Brahmi ghee. I mean, hopefully you know this very wonderful, amazing herb, Brahmi. It comes in ghee. I will talk about it, and it's made to create the sattvic, calm, stable state of mind. So that's the Ayurvedic perspective. The other aspect of Ayurveda, if we look at the state of the mind, is the nervous system. In Ayurveda, it teaches that the nervous system kind of holds the mind. So this is the nervous system, and this is the state your mind. And if the nerves are agitated by your 5 cups of coffee, then your mind is going to be agitated. If you've been eating a lot of heavy proteins, and your nerves are dull and dead, and then your mind's going to be dull and dead. And then if you're eating, a lot of spices and too much, red meat, for example, and you can be too rajasic. So the state of your mind, your nervous system, is going to affect your mind. So the herbs are often sometimes say for the nerves, but if you read the details, it will say how it affects the mind. So the treatment of the nervous system and treatment of the mind is very similar. For example, if you have inflammation in your body, and then you have inflammation in your nervous system, there's certain health conditions where you have inflammation in the nerves. Well, that can create anger and aggression and in the mind. Maybe the person's in pain all the time, so they're short because their nerves are inflamed. That's that sciatic pain is burning, and there's a burning heat in their nerves, and it's killing them, and then they're short-tempered and they're angry. So whatever effect you have on your nerves will affect your state of mind. And then we have our innate state of mind that we are in as a person. Are we a tamasic person, rajasic person, or sattvic? So that said, let's look at some herbs and some treatments that you could do on your own. Like I said, you could some of these herbs, you can start off trying them on yourself, getting to know them by having single herbs by yourself and experiencing how it affects your mind. That's one of the best ways to learn. Like I've drank and taken all of my formulas, even the women's formulas, just to see its effect. So when I talk to a person, I can say, oh yeah, if you drink that a lot, you may feel this or you may feel that. That's because I've consumed all these different products, even if they're women's products, just so I know. So if I'm talking to a woman about this menstruation product, I said, oh, this tea, this formula, it tastes very nice, very sweet, cooling. It feels a little relaxing. And she's like, how'd you know? Because I took a lot of it to experience it. And they all have impact on your body and your mind to some degree. And we're going to talk about the ones that affect our mind and our mental state, so we can help ourselves, like tools to get through the day. And these herbs are safe. You could be having relaxing tea every day of your life for 20 years. It's not going to hurt you. I mean, it's just plants, flowers, leaves, and all these plants and flowers, they have a lot of vitamins and minerals in them. So they benefit you. Like here's my tea right here on my cup, herb and tea. And you can see all my herbs in there floating around. You don't need a tea bag, by the way. And by drinking that, I mean, not only am I getting the therapeutic benefits, I'm having brain tea, by the way, I'm using the tea to kind of affect my mental state for my presentation. And, if I want to go to work, I have my memory tea, my brain tea. If I want to relax in the evening, I have the chill out tea, the sleeping tea. And if I want to get my libido going, there's teas for that. If I feel too irritable and angry at my staff for messing up my orders, then, they may bring me a cup of the chill out or calming or cooling formulas to cool me down because, of something that gets me fired up. And I do get fired up. So I'm using these herbs all the time to manage my mood and feelings throughout the day. And you can too. Now, we can't change our lives. I can't change your life with a cup of tea. Something may be stressing you. Something may be making you angry. But at least You can't control the people around you, but you can control your own reaction. And the teas can be a tool to help you to stay calm or not angry in these situations in life. So let's take a look here. If we go to Herbman Teas, our sponsor, and we just look under the category of nervous system, we can find most of them there. They're for, also nerve pain, headaches, insomnia, but these ones that we're going to cover today are all in this category. Now, the first one I want to show you, one of our top ones, is top sellers, is actually relaxing tea. And here's where each of you could, just have one or two herbs on your own. This is a whole formula, and of course, formulas work quite well. I love this tea. It's a big seller. And we can start with the herbs. Lemon balm is from the mint family. Not that relaxing. If you were but it's a nice base, has a light minty flavor, and it's still considered a nervine from the mint family, and not as peppermint, on the other hand, could be like slightly stimulating. But passionflower, I would say, is the key herb, and I hope you've heard of it. If you were to take one tea to just relax, one herb, I would say passionflower. I know people that just drink passionflower tea, and it's very relaxing. Now, when you start mixing it with a little catnip and that's going to help even more. Motherwort also is known for moods. They also use it in hot flash and menopause tea. And now oats, just like oats and in this case, oat straw, is very good for the nervous system. It's very stabilizing. In fact, we have a tea called nerve repair tea for people with like Parkinson's and inflammation of the nerves. And we put a lot of oats in there because oats, we now know, helps heal this myelin sheath, this protective coating around the outside of the nerve cells. So oats is not going to you're not going to really feel the relaxation so much, but it's supportive. Then you go on to look at lavender. Well, lavender, we know, is a little anti-inflammatory, a little relaxing, but not that much. You have to remember when you research herbs and they say, it's a nervine, it's relaxing, there's always a big degree, and lavender is not very. You could drink a lot of lavender tea. Maybe as a child, you may feel relaxed, but as a stressed out adult, you're probably not going to feel much on your own. But it has a nice flavor to it, so we put it in, and rose petals kind of complements the tea. And then the rosemary and the cinnamon, they're not really for relaxing at all. They're for circulation. A lot of people who have anxiety are vata prakriti or vata Rudy type of person who's maybe cold, it has poor circulation. You got to get these herbs to the brain. You got to get them up there. So the rosemary and the cinnamon is for circulation. And the cinnamon adds a little sweetness to it too, so it's a very tasty tea, a big seller. It's a wonderful formula, particularly with the rose petals, which was added a little later, just kind of for the scent. But if you were just to pick a tea on your own, that you said, hey, I just stress out, I need to unwind, this is a winner. You can give it to almost anybody, the whole family, even children, and very safe for long-term use and very healthy. Oat straw also is very nutritious. So very, very simple, and it will help you even sleep better. But if you were to pick one herb that you want to take on your own, it would be the passionflower. Now, next one will be an Ayurvedic formula. Now, of course, when you take these Ayurvedic formulas, they're much more potent than the teas. The teas, you're just taking a decoction. So this is the calming formula, and this one is used more for more serious anxiety, more along the lines of a panic attack. I mean, you're having panic attacks, hyperventilating, and maybe if you're trying to get off a certain medication, I will definitely lean towards the Ayurvedic formulas. And here we can see some of these herbs, ashwagandha, which you've heard about, but ashwagandha is an adaptogen and helps manage cortisol. Finally, the science has come out on that, but it's not really going to chill you out like people think. If you're having a panic attack, just ashwagandha isn't enough, even though it's the base of the formula. It's really the next two herbs, the jatamansi and shankpushpi. We could say jatamansi and shankpushpi are kind of like passionflower. They're just nice nervines, relaxing. mean, there's little differences between them. Shankpushpi is more cooling. And then Brahmi is probably the ultimate herb for the state of mind. Again, it's not like gonna chill you out and relax you like Brahmi is in my brain tea. And, you can drink a lot of Brahmi and you don't feel tired. In fact, there's a lot of Brahmi in this tea, and it's almost given me a little energy to my mind. So, but it's very stabilizing. Like I said earlier, Brahmi is a sattvic herb. It means it creates peace and tranquility in the mind, but it's not going to like make you relaxed or sleepy. But the last herb, tagar, which is really similar to valerium. It's Indian valerium, actually, but it doesn't have the same heavy sedative quality as a normal valerium. It's a little lighter, but it's a very warming, heavy, grounding, sedative herb. You can see tagar in all the sleeping formulas, one of the main herbs in the sleeping formula, probably the most heavy sedative herb. But here in this calming formula, you can see it's the last ingredient. So it's probably only like 5%, 7% of tagar in there. Of course, the percentage of these herbs is really part of the whole formula here. And over the years, even decades, I adjusted these percentages. And that's why these formulas are so good, because you have to have good formula and then you need to adjust the percentages. But I'm pretty sure tagar is only about 5%, because if it was too much, the formula would make the person sleepy. But this is enough that really like takes the edge right out of a panic attack. So this is the person who's having panic attacks, high anxiety, or thinking of or trying to get off anxiety medication. But I generally will give them both. I'll give them this formula to take first thing in the morning. It should be taken with some a fat, which means warm milk, or a cup of warm water with a spoon of ghee, and best to take it in the morning, particularly if you have anxiety first thing in the morning. If you don't have anxiety until you get on the plane or you get to work, then you can take it at that time. But for people having chronic anxiety, they generally need to take a good dose of this, 1 or 2 teaspoons in the morning, 5, 6 capsules, first thing in the morning with some milk. People don't understand why it's with milk, but that's because the nervous system needs the fat. A low-fat diet can lead to more anxiety. And of course, there's diets for different types of mental states, and I don't want to get into that now. It's another good subject I could do. But for anxiety, you want the magnesium, you want the trace minerals, you want the B vitamins. So a lot of people having nutritional deficiencies, like not doing any grains. We get a lot of people now who are scared of having grains, or carbs as they're called, then start to have more anxiety and sleeping problem. And that's because all the B vitamins are in the grains and they're avoiding them. So that can be an issue. And if you eat really light, skip a lot of meals, do fasting, which is also a kind of a new fad out there. Not that it doesn't have value, but people don't really understand who should use it, who shouldn't. So if you're skipping meals, having a lot of fasting, drinking coffee, then you're definitely going to be more susceptible to anxiety, and even just eating light and becoming ungrounded. So there are diets for anxiety and grounding yourself out. But let's keep going. Let's look at the next subject, cool head formula. This is for anger. And it says here, reduces irritability, frustration, anger, rage, hypercriticism. And you can see even in brackets, it says rajas. So I spoke about that earlier, rajasic. So this is creating this formula. It says promotes mental clarity and peace of mind. So when you're rajasic, you're too aggressive, and you need to have the herbs are very, let's say, tranquil, making you peaceful and cooling. Those are cooling, and let's say stabilizing. This is the herbs that are used in this type of formula. And of course, when I talk about this formula to people, a lot of men say, "Oh, I need that for my wife," and wives say, "Oh, I need that for my husband." And I've had many women purchase this for their husbands and secretly given it to them, or eventually talk them into taking it. And the feedback's been very good. I even had a man who had to go to anger management course, And he contacted me if I could help him with his anger. I said, sure. Better than cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes, no problem. I'll chill you out. And so I gave him this herb and changed his diet. See, he was doing things in his diet. Alcohol makes you more aggressive. Hot spices can make you more aggressive. Too much red meat. We take out all the red meat, not all animal protein, but the red meat, and a lot of things that are, increasing even testosterone in a men have to be reduced down. And then we give him this formula, Cool Head. There's a few versions of it. There's Calm and Cool and other versions, but this is like this person's red, hot, angry, hot-headed. That's what they called it in the ancient days, hot-headed person. Pitta is in the head. So that's why we call it Cool Head formula. And the herbs, first one is a Shankpushpi, which was in the other formula, but not the Jatamatsi, because Shankpushpi is cooler. And then Brahmi, which we talked about. Now, Taruni means rose petals. See, I'm using the Sanskrit name instead of the English name, Taruni. And rose petals, rose scent, roses, the scent of roses, rose essential oils, all considered cooling. So I tell the husband, if you got an irritable wife, always buy her flowers, roses. Let her have the scent of roses in the house. And, that keeps them cool. Works for men, too. And then the next herb here is, there's some Jatamatsi in there. I'm surprised. That's just there's just not as much. It's a calming herb, but it's a little warming. Then there's Guduchi Sattva. Now, also very special. I mean, if you know your Ayurvedic herbs, Guduchi is just a wonderful herb, a miracle herb for inflammation and pain. But this is Guduchi Sattva, which is even more cooling and goes down at a deeper level, and particularly used for pitta types who have heat and burning. It's basically the juice of the Guduchi. I think they soak the Guduchi leaves in water and all this. I'm not sure if they cook it, but there's kind of a slime that forms on the top, and after they let it sit. So instead of taking the herbs and the tea, they just scoop off this slimy residue on the top, and then they dry it out, and that becomes Guduchi Sattva, and it's just like white powder, extremely cooling, and brings down body temperature and heat. We use it in hot flashes too. And then the last ingredient is Mukti Pishti. Again, I just use the Sanskrit name, and it's powdered pearls. Pishti means the powder, fine powder as medicine. Mukti Pishti also become Mukta Pishti, can be referred to, and that is powdered pearls. So if you have a hot-tempered wife, you buy her pearls, pearl necklace, and it will help. And no hot, spicy food. Okay, so this has been proven very effective. I even remember one guy called me on the phone and started cussing me out about, the delivery of this product was late. Whenever people order this, we're always like, let's ship him fast before he calls and gets angry at us, because it happened one time where somebody was angry that I wasn't sending their Cool Head formula. And I remember the guy was literally swearing at me. I won't use those swear words here. And I just thought he was just going to hang up on me and the whole relationship was over and it was done. And then at the end, he said, send me 6 bags. And he swore while he said it. So I sent him the bill for 6 bags and he paid. But I told the staff about it. It was kind of funny because he's yelling and screaming at me, angry because we didn't send the herbs in time. And then at the end, he just ordered more anyway. So, he's the kind of guy I didn't want to tell him, you need to be taking more of them. I think I mentioned it, and then he got even more mad because he had run out because we sent him too late. So he couldn't take them. And there's a lot of people that order that formula. I tell you, just keep ordering it. And there's a variation of it called Calm and Cool. And I call it anxious frustration. It's kind of a mix of the 2 other ones that I showed you. There's the Brahmi first, so it's definitely stabilizing for the mind. Shankpushpi, Jatamatsi, which I talked about, Guduchi, and sandalwood is in here. It's a nice touch. This is a good herbalist. I can tell by looking at the formula. Red sandalwood, very nice touch, just a little not essential. You don't always, every herb doesn't have to be essential. Sometimes that's what makes a formula special. And then a little licorice root to kind of bind the two together, because licorice balances both vata and pitta. So that it works. That's for more when a person's a little anxious, and then that anxiety kind of leads to irritability. I call it a anxious frustration, but when I describe it to people, then they know, oh, that's me. And all of these herbs do help with mental clarity, because Brahmi is key for mental clarity. But this one, maybe even more with that Brahmi first. Very good and effective formula. The other two formulas were more traditional, and then I made this one as a kind of a combination of the two. So next is kind of depression. I tend not to use the word depression tea, so I use mood balance tea. I used to call this tea happy tea. I'm thinking of changing the name back. But it's uplifting, and it's got mild aphrodisiac qualities. Now, when someone's depressed, then we give them the stimulants, a little stimulation, get the energy going, sometimes some green tea, some aphrodisiacs, get them off the sofa, kind of get them going. But if you're over aggressive, angry person, then we don't want to give you more stimulants. We want to cool you down. And if you're overthinking, stressed out person, we don't want to give you any stimulants at all. But if you're depressed and not getting out of bed in the morning, don't have any motivation, then then to lift you out of depression, we want a little stimulation. And then we give this person a diet that's very light, no animal protein at all, maybe just ghee or a little bit, but no heavy cheese, yogurt, red meat, because that's all heavy and dense. We want the light so the person feels light, so they get out of bed and get going. And that's why you can see that. And here we can see some stimulating herbs. We use peppermint instead of lemon balm, because peppermint kind of stimulates your appetite. It's a little bit more zesty. There's the Brahmi to stabilize the mind, the motherwort also for the mind, but the Dahmania leaf, which you see there, that is the aphrodisiac. And so, if a guy's depressed or a person's depressed, if you push that libido up a little bit, that gets them going. Antidepressive herbs and libido boosting herbs are often, there's an overlap in there. And that's definitely the case with Dahmania, which is also used in my sexy woman tea, because it's a mild aphrodisiac, suitable even for women. And then we have the St. John's wort, the base of the formula, known to help with mild cases of depression. So, and mood stabilization. And now there's more research, of course, backing that up. And then, of course, you got a little bit of black pepper in there and cinnamon for the circulation to get the herbs going. Black pepper is kind of stimulating hot. So you got this kind of stimulated heat. This is a warming formula compared with the anger formula, which was cooling. This is like a heating and stimulating formula. And the anger formula was a cooling formula, and the anxiety formula was a calming. But this one's the opposite. It's a little stimulating and heating to get the metabolism going. And if you do come to me, or a patient comes to me with depression, I give them the tea and tell them to just drink a couple cups a day. And many people say not only did they get motivated and get going, they joined a dating site. So, I kind of chuckled, because, I knew that there were aphrodisiacs in there, and they were drinking a lot of it. So that at least they had a motivation. But I did hear that before. And then here is the Ayurvedic formula for that. It's called Mood Balancer. I give it out for depression, but in fact, it's a very interesting formula I learned from another Ayurvedic doctor. It's got the 3 herbs, all 3 which I mentioned earlier. No, 2 I mentioned earlier. Brahmi stabilizes the mind, the key one to stabilize the mind. Shank Pushpi, also kind of relaxing, nervine, but cooling. And it has a new herb in here I haven't talked about. Looks like Jatamatsi, but it's not. It's Jyotish Matsi. And even Ayurvedic doctors don't know this Jyotish Matsi, and that is the one of the three herbs, and all three herbs are an equal amount, 33%, 33%, 33%. So even the percent of the herbs is balanced. And so this is a very balancing formula. See, it says it helps with mild depression, anxiety, and irritability. It's just a mood balancer, stabilizer, very effective. And there's three herbs, and each one balances one dosha: the Brahmi, the Pitta, and the Shankpushpi, the Vata, we could simply say, and then Jyotismatsi, the very special herb, which is used for depression and um, let's say, and intelligence. I have a formula called intelligence formula, and Jyotismatsi is the first herb. So it stimulates the brain. It's for the student. It's kind of getting the brain going, getting you thinking. And then it's got this stabilizing Brahmi herb on the one side and this calming, mildly calming herb on the other side. And the formula is magical. And it was given to me by an Ayurvedic doctor, just verbally told it to me one time. And I've been selling it for years. And again, many people bought it a lot. And if you had depression, I would give you this in the morning, plus the happy tea all day long. And now, I don't sell a lot of essential oils, or I don't even use them really in my practice. If you've been a patient with me, I never give out essential oils therapeutically, even though I do sell some, because I ended up importing some from Afghanistan, like this rose oil. And but they are good for your state of mind. They were kind of overused and over promoted at a certain time, where people started coming up with this belief they could treat everything with essential oils. I think that fad is kind of gone, but they have use, and one of the uses is adjusting your state of mind, particularly for young children and animals. And you can use an infuser. And what I do with essential oils, I just put a few drops in my hand. I have some around my table and just rub it together and inhale it in. And so this rose oil, you can do that. You can put a few drops in your hand and inhale it in. Of course, rose is very good for your skin, but it's very cooling and very sweet, and it can be help with irritability and anger. Rose is, it's very pleasant, calming scent. So you can put it in an infuser in that room, and then everybody who comes in that room will, of course, be inhaling this essential oil. And indirectly, or I'd say directly, just through the air and the atmosphere, that it goes into their lungs and into their bloodstream and to their brain, and has a little impact on them. Very mild impact. I mean, if a screaming guy came running in your door, I don't think you could slow him down with a little essential oil. And I don't even give it to somebody with real anger management issues. I just use the herbs I showed you because they're so much more effective. But, it does show there are uses for essential oil. They're not without use. And one of their best uses is to change the atmosphere in the room as an infuser and let people inhale it. And of course, for calming, is a chamomile calming. It's very calming, and it can be used in the same way, even for panic attacks. I've given this one out sometimes to people because they can keep it in their purse or their car, and then you just put a few drops in your hand and rub it together and inhale it. And in fact, when I've done certain things with my horse or my animals, that's what I do is I put some chamomile, like I'm going to put some eye drops in them, or, fix a wound on their face. Things like that. I put the chamomile in my hand and rub it together and just put it around there, put my hands over their nose. So, it kind of calms them down. So animals are very sensitive. And this is Roman chamomile. It's very nice, very light, flowery, calming feeling. And again, say you were in a classroom and you had a bunch of crazy kids running around, you could do an infuser, put some drops of chamomile in there, and you could see this will affect the state of mind of the children in the room. So, and then what else we got? We also have what's called Nasa in Ayurveda. These are drops that are put in your nose. And this one, we have a couple of these brain oil drops. They're called nasa. And they've got the oil of Brahmi. And there's two versions. This is the sesame oil with Brahmi oil inside of it. And we use it for stress, and Brahmi is also good for the mind. And a lot of times I use this for tension headaches. That's the time I will sell it, is for tension headaches. So, because you're just getting it right. You snort it in the nasal passages and it hits that whole area and absorbs, and it can really help with headaches and even help improve cognitive function. Nasa, this is a type of Ayurvedic treatment. And I do provide these to clients. And then there's one more. There's two nasas. There's another one for with for pitta, for anger. I don't see it here, but here's another product I wanted to show you, which we only recently put up on the website, Ayurvedic brain ghee, and this is a Brahmi leaf decocted in ghee. And this is we use for ADHD, attention deficit, helping with focus. And when you take an herb and ghee, because you can, herbs, they come in many forms. You can have a tea, you can have a powder, you can have an oil, you can have like a fermented wine, like a rishta, and then you can have ghees like this. So there's many herbal ghees. I use a lot of them in practice. I just don't have them on the website. But now we do have one on the website, probably the most commonly used one, this one, Ayurvedic brain ghee, which is basically Brahmi ghee. And I use it mostly for, children whose minds are just jumping around too much. But it also can be used for people who are meditating and just want to really have a sattvic state of mind and a calm state of mind. So if you're going to go, you're a little rattled and you want to go off to your yoga class, your meditation class, or you want to do this at home, then 1 spoon of this will help stabilize the mind. And I've had many mothers who gave half a teaspoon every morning to their child, and the teacher noticed within a week that the child's mind is more stable, and it was much better and much safer than giving a pharmaceutical medication with its side effects and dependence. So I do use it for those type of cases. So I hope that helped you realize that changing your state of mind with herbs is quite simple. Now, of course, the herb doesn't change the circumstances that you have that may be stressing you out, making you angry, or making you depressed. You have to, work on those things on your own. And I'm only an herbalist, not a counselor, which I do have to say at times when I have my patients, I can only give you the herbs to help you to get through this period of life, that you're in. You're either grieving or you're anxious or you're irritable or some variation of it. And of course, I would always change your diet, particularly if you came to me with depression, anxiety, or anger. If that was your main focus of the appointment, then I would adjust the diet to be compatible. And there's many foods that can create anxiety, like chocolate. It has a type of caffeine in it. It stimulates the brain. It's also rajasic and stimulated. And coffee is a real bad boy. Unless, of course, you're depressed, you can't get out of bed, then it can be medicine. So that's why there's nothing that's good or bad. I mean, once you're thinking in those terms, you still really don't understand herbs or life, because things are always not so simple as good or bad. Just like a good person can do a bad thing and a bad person can do a good thing. And so herbs are the same. I mean, one herb could be good for one person, not so good for another person. Coffee is a real problem for people with anxiety, but not for people who have depression or are overweight. I mean, they need that coffee to get them going. So some people I'll give coffee as medicine, and other people I will tell them, your coffee is poison for you. It's making all of your conditions worse. Your inflammation, your anxiety, your sleep, your racing heart, your high blood pressure, all can be exasperated by coffee. for that certain type of person. Well, another person can be drinking 3-4 cups a day and feel much better and sleep like a baby and still have a low pulse and no high blood pressure. So, we're all different, and that's why we have to get away from this thinking, is this good or this bad? I mean, everybody texts me and ask, "Oh, Kabir, doctor, is this good or is this bad?" And I always just reply with the same words: "It depends." Because it depends on who you're talking to. And this is, of course, a big problem we see today, where people just say this is good and this is bad, or they say this is good for everybody. And none of the things that I recommended today would be good for everybody. And I encourage you, if you go to, the website, Herb Teas, and you look for these products, to read carefully on who the product is for. And even more important, to put down who the product is not for. That's also very important. And then I do list that on there, who the product is not for, who should not take it. That's also equally important. So do read up on each of these products if you purchase them online, and that will help you to pick the right product. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.